It was her first day at one of the biggest companies in the city. The office tower stood tall, its glass walls shining under the morning sun. Inside, people moved quickly, dressed neatly, carrying laptops and coffee cups as if they all had somewhere important to be. Among them was Clara, trying to hide her nerves behind a confident smile. She had worked hard to land this job, and today was the beginning of what she believed would be her real success story. She took a deep breath before walking into the main lobby. Everything looked modern and expensive. The sound of heels on marble floors, the smell of fresh coffee, and the quiet hum of printers filled the air. Clara checked in at the reception desk, received her company badge, and was told to wait for someone from her department to escort her upstairs. She sat on a sleek bench holding her purse tightly, glancing around at the people walking past. Just then she noticed a man in a plain shirt wiping down the counter near the coffee machine. His clothes were simple, his sleeves rolled up, and his shoes looked worn. He seemed focused on cleaning, quietly humming to himself. Clara didn't pay much attention, other than thinking he was part of the support staff, maybe maintenance or housekeeping. When he noticed her waiting alone, he smiled kindly and said, "First day?" Clara nodded politely. "Yeah, just waiting for someone to take me up." "Big first day then," he said. "You'll be fine, just don't forget people's names, that's the trick." She laughed lightly, trying to keep the conversation short. "I'll try to remember that." He smiled again, then went back to wiping the counter. She looked away, checking her reflection in her phone's screen, making sure her hair looked perfect. The elevator opened a few minutes later, and her supervisor arrived to take her to the marketing department. As she followed, she saw the same man pushing a small cart toward the corner. Clara didn't think much of him after that. Upstairs, the day passed quickly. She was introduced to her team, shown her desk, and given a small pile of orientation papers. Everyone seemed friendly enough, though busy. Clara listened carefully during the introductions, wanting to make a good first impression. Her supervisor, Mr. Allen, explained the company culture, teamwork, respect, and innovation. But all Clara cared about was proving herself fast and moving up. During lunch, she joined a few co-workers in the cafeteria. They chatted about work, the city, and the upcoming annual company event where, apparently, the CEO would finally appear in person. Clara had never met the CEO, but she'd heard rumors he was very private and rarely came to the office. Some even said he liked to walk around unannounced, observing how employees worked. To Clara, it just sounded like office gossip. While they talked, the same man from the lobby walked by, carrying a box of files. He nodded politely at their table, his expression calm. Clara looked at him, then back at her coworkers. "Does anyone know that guy?" she asked in a low tone. "He was in the lobby earlier, cleaning up. He's everywhere." One of the girls shrugged. "Oh, that's Daniel, I think. He's been around for a while." "No one really knows what he does exactly." Clara chuckled. "Probably just one of the workers running errands. He looked like he was cleaning earlier." A few laughed quietly, and the topic shifted to something else. Clara didn't mean to sound rude, but she always believed in keeping her circle professional. She wanted to be seen as someone ambitious, someone destined for bigger things. Over the next few days, Clara settled into her new role. She was fast, efficient, and always dressed sharply. People started noticing her energy and enthusiasm, especially during meetings. Yet sometimes she'd notice Daniel in random places, near the conference rooms, walking down the hallways, or quietly sitting in the cafeteria corner reading something. He didn't speak much, but he seemed to know everyone. And strangely, people treated him with quiet respect. One afternoon, while waiting for a printout, Clara saw Daniel again. He was standing near the printer fixing a paper jam. She tapped her foot impatiently. "Do you know what you're doing?" she asked, half jokingly. "I really need those papers." He glanced at her with a calm smile. "Almost done. These machines can be tricky sometimes." "Well, I guess you deal with this stuff a lot," she said. "It's good we have people like you around to handle the messy things." Daniel looked at her for a second as if trying to understand her tone, then simply nodded. "We all handle something messy, don't we?" he said quietly, stepping aside to let her take her papers. Clara barely heard him. She was already focused on her next meeting. That evening, in the elevator, she overheard two employees talking. One said, "I heard the CEO's been doing quiet visits lately. Someone said he's been sitting in different departments to see how people treat one another." Clara listened with mild interest, but thought it was probably another rumor. She couldn't imagine someone as powerful as the CEO walking around unnoticed. "If I ever meet him," she thought, "I'll make sure he remembers me." The following week, Clara worked late one evening to finish a presentation. The office was mostly empty except for the sound of cleaning machines in the hallway. As she packed up, she noticed Daniel again collecting a few folders from the front desk. He saw her and smiled. "Long day?" "Yeah," she replied, rubbing her eyes. "Trying to make an impression?" "You already have," he said softly. "Sometimes it's not just what you do, but how you treat people that leaves the biggest impression." Clara wasn't sure what to say. She smiled awkwardly, pretending to be too tired to talk, and left quickly. His words stuck with her a little, though she didn't admit it. She told herself he probably didn't understand the pressure of trying to move up in such a competitive place. By the end of her first month, Clara had built a small reputation. Her ideas were noticed, and her supervisor praised her enthusiasm. She liked being seen, being heard, being someone others looked to for input. But occasionally, when she saw Daniel passing by, she still felt slightly confused by the respect people gave him. Even senior staff greeted him politely, and once, she even saw the head of finance shake his hand warmly. One morning, Clara arrived early and found Daniel standing near the large window overlooking the city. He wasn't cleaning or carrying anything this time, just standing there quietly. She hesitated before speaking. "You're here early, too." He smiled faintly. "I like to see how the city wakes up. It's peaceful." Clara walked closer, curious. "You really like this job, huh?" "I like the people," he said simply. "Everyone has their own story. You can learn a lot if you listen." "Maybe," she said, shrugging. "I just want to get ahead, you know? Climbing up in this company isn't easy." He nodded thoughtfully. "Climbing's good, but make sure you don't step on anyone while you do it." She laughed lightly. "Don't worry, I'm nice enough, mostly." Daniel chuckled, then looked out the window again. "I'm sure you'll do well." Something about his calm confidence made her pause, but before she could reply, someone called her name from across the room, and she hurried away. She didn't realize he was watching her leave with a quiet smile. That week, the marketing department received an email announcing that the CEO himself would be attending the upcoming annual event. Everyone buzzed with excitement. Clara saw it as a golden opportunity. She spent extra time on her appearance, stayed late to prepare, and told her friends she wanted to stand out that day. The CEO was said to be observant and sharp. Maybe, just maybe, he'd notice her work and remember her name. On Friday afternoon, as she was heading out, she heard Daniel speaking to the security guard near the lobby. His tone was calm but carried a certain authority. She didn't catch the words, but the guard nodded respectfully, almost like taking instructions. Clara found it strange but didn't think too deeply about it. She assumed Daniel just knew everyone because he'd been around so long. Before leaving, she passed him and said half-jokingly, "You sure do get around, don't you? You're everywhere in this building." He smiled, that same calm smile she'd seen many times. "It helps to know the place you work in, and the people too." "Well," she said confidently, "maybe one day I'll be up there too, giving orders." Daniel nodded. "I don't doubt it. Just remember, the higher you go, the more people see how you treat those below." She tilted her head slightly, unsure what he meant. "That's one way to put it." He gave a small smile. "You'll understand one day." Clara laughed, waving goodbye as she walked out the glass doors, unaware that the man she thought was just another worker was far more than he seemed. That weekend, as she prepared for the company's grand event, she kept thinking about the CEO's rumored visit and how she might finally get the recognition she deserved, never realizing she had already met the one person whose opinion mattered most. The next week began with a rush of meetings and new projects. The company was preparing for its biggest event of the year, the annual leadership conference, and the entire office buzzed with excitement and tension. Posters were being printed, speeches were being written, and everyone wanted their department to shine. For Clara, this was the perfect chance to prove her worth. She wanted her managers to see that she could handle big responsibilities. She was assigned to help organize some of the event materials, which meant working with different departments, people from finance, HR, and even logistics. It was a lot of running around, collecting information, sending emails, and confirming details. She didn't mind the pressure. In fact, she enjoyed it. She believed that hard work would make her stand out. But as the days went on, Clara noticed something strange. No matter which department she visited, Daniel always seemed to be there. Once she saw him talking with someone from finance. Another time he was with HR staff discussing seating arrangements. Then one morning she found him walking side by side with Mr. Allen, her supervisor, as they discussed something quietly. Clara couldn't understand it. Why would a man who cleaned tables and fixed printers be involved in so many serious discussions? During lunch, she brought it up again with her coworker, Nina. "You ever notice that guy, Daniel?" she asked. "He's everywhere. I swear he's part of every department now." Nina smiled, stirring her drink. "Yeah, he's around a lot, but I think he's someone important." Clara laughed. "Come on, important?" "He was literally wiping coffee off a counter the first day I came here." Nina shrugged. "Still, people treat him with respect. Even the managers. I don't know his position, but I think he's close to the higher-ups." Clara raised an eyebrow. "That's impossible. I mean, no offense, but he doesn't even dress like someone from management." "Well," Nina said, smiling faintly, "not everyone who's powerful needs to show it." Clara smirked, brushing off the comment. To her, Daniel was still just one of those overly helpful staff members who liked to insert himself into every situation. She didn't dislike him, but she found his quiet confidence a little strange and almost unsettling. Later that day, Clara had to deliver some printed reports to a small meeting room where a few senior employees were gathered. When she opened the door, she froze for a second. Daniel was inside, sitting at the table, listening as others presented. He wasn't speaking, just observing. The moment she walked in, all eyes turned toward her. "Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt," she said quickly, placing the papers on the table. "Here are the reports Mr. Allen asked for." "Thank you," one of the managers said with a polite smile. Daniel gave her a small nod and she hurried out, confused. Why was he in that meeting? He didn't belong there. The managers didn't seem bothered by his presence, though, which made her wonder even more. That evening she was still thinking about it. When she passed by the break room, she saw Daniel sitting alone with a cup of tea writing something in a small notebook. Out of curiosity, she walked in. "You sure move around a lot," she said, trying to sound casual. "You were in that finance meeting today, right?" Daniel looked up and smiled. "I was. They needed a bit of help coordinating some details for the event." "Wow," she said, surprised. "You help with everything here, don't you?" "What's your job exactly?" He chuckled softly. "Let's just say I like to understand how things work around here." "That's interesting," she said, not fully satisfied with the answer. "I guess it's good to be involved." "Some people just do the bare minimum." Daniel nodded. "True. But sometimes people who seem like they're doing small things are actually doing a lot behind the scenes." Clara tilted her head, half smiling. "You like speaking in riddles, don't you?" He laughed quietly. "Maybe. It's just fun to see how people think." She shook her head, amused and slightly confused, then left the room. She didn't realize that others who saw her talking to him gave small, knowing smiles, as if they all understood something she didn't. The next few days grew busier. Clara and her team worked late nights to finalize event details. One afternoon, Mr. Allen called her into his office. "Clara, you've been doing excellent work," he said. "We've decided to include you on the coordination team for the main event day. You'll be helping with guest seating and assisting VIPs." Her face lit up. "Really, that's amazing." "Thank you," he nodded. "It's a big responsibility. You'll be in close contact with senior staff and possibly even the board members. Just make sure to stay professional and respectful with everyone. The CEO values humility above all." She nodded eagerly, not really paying attention to the humility part. All she could think about was being noticed by top management. Maybe this was her chance to finally meet the CEO himself. Later that week, the preparations reached their peak. Decorations were being set up, banners were printed, and invitations were finalized. The whole company was buzzing with anticipation. During one of the rehearsals, Clara was helping arrange chairs in the main hall when Daniel appeared again, checking the lighting and sound system. Still following everyone around, she teased, wiping sweat from her forehead. He smiled. Just making sure things run smoothly. She grinned. You take your job pretty seriously, don't you? I do, he replied. Every job deserves to be done with care. Doesn't matter the title. Clara laughed softly. I wish everyone thought like that. He gave her a thoughtful look. You will someday. She was about to ask what he meant when someone called her name from across the hall and she hurried off again. Daniel watched her go, his expression calm but knowing. That night, Clara met with a few co-workers at a nearby cafe to relax after a long day. The topic of the CEO came up again. I heard he's incredibly private, one of them said. No one even knows what he looks like. He's barely been seen in public, another added. Apparently, he likes to walk around the office sometimes, pretending to be just a regular employee to see how people behave. Everyone laughed, but Clara's mind suddenly went to Daniel. The way he was everywhere, the way everyone respected him quietly. It almost fit the rumor. But she shook her head. That was ridiculous. The CEO of such a massive company wouldn't be pushing carts or fixing printers. It was just a coincidence. Still, the thought lingered in her mind for the rest of the night. The day before the event, the main hall was finally ready. Clara walked through it proudly, checking every detail. The chairs were neatly arranged. The stage gleamed under bright lights, and the large company logo hung proudly behind the podium. It looked perfect. She felt a rush of excitement. Tomorrow, all the big names would be here. The CEO, the board, department heads, everyone. While reviewing the seating chart, she saw Daniel again, standing on the stage, talking quietly to one of the sound technicians. When he noticed her watching, he smiled and walked down toward her. Everything looks great, he said, glancing around. Yeah, she replied. It's been a lot of work, but I think it'll go perfectly. I'm sure it will, he said. You've done well, Clara, she blinked. You know my name? He nodded with a smile. Of course. People notice hard work even if you don't think they do. That made her feel unexpectedly proud. Thanks, she said. It's nice to hear that. Daniel gave her a small nod, then added, Tomorrow will be a big day. Try to take it all in. Sometimes the people we least expect can surprise us. Clara smiled, thinking he was just being friendly. You really do like your mysterious advice, don't you? He laughed quietly. Maybe, but it always makes sense later. As he walked away, Clara felt a strange sense of curiosity. There was something about him she couldn't quite figure out. She almost asked him what his real job was, but decided not to. Tomorrow, she thought she'd finally see everyone's true roles, especially when the CEO appeared. That night, Clara could barely sleep. Her mind raced with possibilities. She imagined shaking the CEO's hand, maybe even being noticed for her efforts. She thought about what she would wear, how she would stand, how she'd speak if introduced. This was her moment to shine. She didn't know that tomorrow would turn her world upside down, that the person she thought was just a worker would be the one standing under the bright lights, changing how she saw everything and everyone around her forever. The morning of the big event arrived with a different kind of energy in the air. The building that usually buzzed with quiet office chatter now felt alive. Employees dressed more formally than usual, and the scent of polished floors and fresh flowers filled the halls. Everyone seemed to move a little faster, talk a little softer, and smile a little wider. It was the day the mysterious CEO would finally appear in person, a man no one had seen for years. Clara woke up early, full of excitement and nerves. She had ironed her outfit the night before, making sure every detail was perfect. She wanted to stand out, to look professional but confident. This was her chance to make an impression that could change her career. She rehearsed her polite smile in the mirror before leaving home, trying to calm her heartbeat that seemed to race with every step she took. When she arrived at the office, the atmosphere was electric. Banners were up, the hallways were spotless, and staff from every department were already working to make sure the day went smoothly. Clara was assigned to help with guest seating in the main hall. She checked her clipboard again and again, confirming names, rows, and reserved spots. She wanted everything to go perfectly. As she adjusted a few place cards on the front tables, she heard a familiar, calm voice behind her. "Everything looks good," Daniel said. He stood near the back of the hall, hands in his pockets, watching the setup with a relaxed expression. Clara turned, surprised. "You're here early too?" He smiled. "Big day. Everyone's nervous, I think." She laughed softly. "You're not?" "No," he said simply. "I've seen enough of these to know that people remember how they feel more than what they see. If everyone leaves proud and happy, then it's a success." Clara nodded slowly, though she didn't quite understand what he meant. "You talk like you've done this before." "Maybe I have," he replied with a small grin. Before she could ask more, her supervisor called her name. She turned back quickly, and when she looked again, Daniel had already walked off toward the side stage area, talking to one of the technicians. It seemed like he belonged everywhere, like the whole place quietly revolved around him. Still, she didn't think much of it. Her focus was on her task. The main hall began to fill up as the morning went on. Employees, managers, and guests from different branches of the company took their seats. The air buzzed with excitement and whispered conversations. Clara moved from row to row, guiding people to their spots, smiling, answering questions, and making sure everyone was comfortable. She was so focused she barely noticed time passing. Finally, the lights dimmed slightly, and a voice came over the speakers announcing that the event was about to begin. The crowd grew quiet. The host, a cheerful man in a suit, walked onto the stage, welcoming everyone and thanking them for their hard work throughout the year. Clara stood near the side of the hall, clipboard in hand, watching everything proudly. This was the company she had dreamed of being part of. As the host spoke, he mentioned the highlight everyone had been waiting for, the CEO's special address. The crowd clapped eagerly. Clara felt a rush of anticipation. She straightened her blazer and tried to peek toward the backstage area. Who was he? What did he look like? Would he be the kind of leader who inspired people, or someone distant and cold? The host smiled and said into the microphone, "And now please welcome the man who built this company from the ground up, our visionary leader, Daniel Reed." The hall erupted in applause. For a moment, Clara froze. The name hit her ears, but her mind refused to believe it. She turned toward the stage, eyes wide, heart thudding in disbelief. Walking across the stage, calm and confident, was the same man she had seen fixing printers, wiping counters, and quietly giving her advice. Daniel. He wasn't wearing his usual simple shirt today. He was dressed in a tailored dark suit that fit him perfectly, his presence commanding but effortless. The employees stood up, clapping, some even cheering. Cameras flashed. And there he was, the man she had called just a worker, standing under bright lights as the CEO of the entire company. Clara's face turned pale. For a few seconds, she couldn't even breathe. Her clipboard nearly slipped from her hands. She tried to blink, thinking maybe it was a mistake, maybe there was another Daniel Reed, but no, it was him. The same calm smile, the same eyes that always seemed to know more than he said. As the applause died down, Daniel took the microphone. "Thank you," he said, his voice steady and warm. "It's good to finally see everyone together again." His tone was genuine, humble, and full of quiet strength. The hall fell completely silent as he began his speech. Clara stood frozen near the corner, her heart pounding so hard she could barely hear the first few sentences. But soon his words pulled her in. "I started this company years ago with a simple idea," Daniel said, "to create a place where talent and respect go hand in hand. A place where people treat each other with kindness no matter their title or position." Some people nodded, others smiled knowingly. Clara's stomach tightened. Each word seemed to reach her directly. Daniel continued, "Over the years I've learned that the real measure of a company isn't in its profits or growth charts. It's in how its people treat one another. Not when someone's watching, but when they think no one important is around." He paused, looking across the hall. His gaze swept over the crowd, calm and thoughtful, and for a brief moment Clara felt certain he looked right at her. Her hands went cold. He went on, "That's why I like to spend time walking around the offices, seeing how things really work. Not from behind a desk, but among the people who make this company what it is. Sometimes the smallest moments show the biggest truths." The audience listened in complete silence. Some employees exchanged quiet smiles, realizing what he meant. Clara's mind was spinning. Every interaction she had with him replayed in her head. The day in the lobby, the printer, the break room conversation. his gentle warnings about respect. She had laughed, brushed him off, even spoken about him to others as if he were beneath her. Shame washed over her, heavy and hot. Daniel's tone softened. If you've ever wondered what really matters in your work, let me tell you. It's people. The ones you see every day. The ones who clean the floors you walk on. The ones who stay late to fix your mistakes. The ones who smile when you don't even notice. They are the heart of everything. Applause filled the hall again. Clara's eyes stung as she tried to keep her composure. She looked down at her clipboard, unable to face anyone. She could feel her cheeks burning, her stomach twisting with regret. How could she have been so blind? Daniel continued his speech, talking about the company's journey, future goals, and the power of unity. His words were calm but full of meaning. People nodded, inspired and emotional. He wasn't like other CEOs who bragged about numbers and success. He spoke about gratitude and humility. By the time he finished, the hall erupted in applause again. People stood up, cheering, clapping, even whistling. Clara clapped too, though her hands trembled. Her mind was still spinning, caught between disbelief and guilt. She wanted to disappear, to hide somewhere until the feeling passed. After the event ended, everyone crowded around the stage, eager to shake Daniel's hand or take a photo with him. Clara stayed near the back, unsure if she should go up. Her supervisor passed by and said excitedly, "Can you believe it? Daniel, all this time he was among us. Incredible, isn't it?" Clara forced a small smile. Yeah, incredible. Her heart sank deeper as she watched him smile and thank everyone patiently. He looked at peace, not proud or distant, just kind, the same way he always had been. Even when she had looked down on him, when the crowd finally began to thin, Daniel stepped off the stage and started greeting employees one by one. Clara turned to leave quietly, hoping to escape before he noticed her. But just as she reached the side exit, she heard his voice behind her. "Leaving already?" She froze. Slowly, she turned around. Daniel stood a few feet away, hands still in his pockets, a faint smile on his face. His tone was calm, not angry or mocking. "I didn't expect to see you here," she said awkwardly, trying to sound casual. "I didn't expect to see you working this hard either." He replied gently, "You did well today." "Thank you," she murmured, not meeting his eyes. Her throat felt dry. I didn't know." He raised a hand slightly. "You didn't need to. Sometimes we all make quick judgments. It's part of being human." She looked up at him then, her voice barely above a whisper. "I feel terrible about how I acted." He smiled softly. "Then you've already learned something important." For a few moments they stood in silence. Around them, the hall buzzed with people packing up, laughing, and talking about the big reveal. But in that quiet corner, everything else faded. Daniel glanced at the stage, then back at her. "You have potential, Clara. Don't let pride get in the way of kindness. They're both part of success, but only one lasts." Her eyes watered slightly as she nodded. "I'll remember that. I know you will," he said, and with that same calm smile, he walked away toward a group of employees waiting for him. Clara stood there for a long moment, her heart full of mixed emotions, embarrassment, admiration, and a strange kind of respect. The man she had once brushed off as just a worker had turned out to be the person she admired most. As she watched him disappear into the crowd, she realized her life, and her view of people, would never be the same again. The sound of applause echoed through the hall, still ringing in Clara's ears long after Daniel finished his speech. She stood near the side wall, unable to move, her heart heavy with a mix of embarrassment and disbelief. The same man she had brushed off as just a worker now stood on stage speaking like someone who carried the weight of the company, because he did. Every eye was on him. Every word he said felt powerful yet full of humility. As Daniel stepped down from the stage, people rose to shake his hand. Some clapped him on the back, others took photos. The energy was electric. Clara, however, felt frozen in place. Her face burned as if everyone could read her thoughts. She remembered the first time she had seen him, how she had complained about him to a colleague, how she had assumed he didn't belong. Now it was her assumptions that didn't belong. She slipped quietly out of the main hall once the crowd began mingling. The air in the hallway felt cooler, calmer, though her chest still felt tight. She leaned against a wall, trying to catch her breath. How could she have been so blind? He had given her every clue. His calm confidence, the way people seemed to respect him quietly, even the subtle authority in his words. She just never looked closely enough. She thought about the day she had dismissed him near the printer. The way she had spoken, hurried, sharp, careless. "You shouldn't be wandering around here," she had said. The memory stung like a slap now. The same man had just spoken about kindness, respect, and seeing people for who they were, not what they appeared to be. While Clara hid in the hallway, Daniel moved through the room, greeting employees, thanking teams, listening to stories. He didn't act like a man who wanted praise. He acted like one who valued people. And that only made her shame heavier. After a few minutes, she decided she couldn't avoid him forever. He would eventually see her, and maybe it was better to face it. She took a deep breath, straightened her blazer, and walked slowly back toward the event area. By then, the energy had shifted. Music played softly, people were laughing, taking photos, chatting. Daniel stood near the front, talking with some department heads. When Clara caught sight of him, she hesitated. Part of her wanted to turn back, but another part told her she owed him, at least an apology. He noticed her before she could approach. Their eyes met, and instead of anger or coldness, there was something unreadable in his expression. Calm, as always. He gave a small nod, almost like he had been expecting her. Clara walked closer, her throat dry. "Mr. Reed," she said softly, stopping a few feet away. I didn't know." He looked at her for a moment before replying. Most people didn't. There was no trace of bitterness in his voice. That made it harder for her. "I feel awful about how I acted before," she admitted. "I spoke without thinking. I made assumptions that were wrong." "I'm so sorry." Daniel gave a faint smile, almost kind. "You don't owe me an apology, Clara. We all see people through our own filters. What matters is what we learn from it." His calmness surprised her. She expected a lecture, maybe disappointment. Instead, his words held no judgment, just quiet truth. "Still," she said, her voice shaking slightly, "I should have treated you better. You were trying to help, and I didn't respect that." He nodded slowly. "Sometimes the way we treat others says more about our own state of mind than about them. Don't be too hard on yourself. What matters is how you grow from it." Those words sank deep. They weren't just comforting. They were a reminder that even when you fail, you can still become better. Clara didn't know how to respond, so she just nodded. Daniel continued. "You have talent, Clara. I've seen your work. But talent needs humility to become leadership. Never forget that." Her eyes widened slightly. "You've seen my work?" He smiled. "I've seen everyone's. That's part of my job. But I like to see it up close. Not from reports or emails, but through the people themselves. You're driven, and that's good. Just remember what truly matters." She nodded again, feeling her throat tighten. "I will." He gave her one last reassuring look before someone called his name from across the room. "Excuse me," he said, and then he was gone, swallowed up by the crowd again. Clara stood there, speechless. She wanted to say more. Maybe thank him for not embarrassing her, maybe promise to change. But the moment had already passed. Still, something inside her shifted. That night, as she got home and sat on her bed, she couldn't stop replaying everything in her head. The speech, his calm eyes, the way he didn't hold a grudge. It wasn't just embarrassment anymore. It was realization. She opened her laptop and watched the recording of the event that had been uploaded to the company portal. As Daniel spoke about respect, teamwork, and compassion, she noticed how everyone in the room had been listening, truly listening. Even the senior managers looked humbled. His words weren't about business. They were about people. Clara stared at the screen for a long time. "Respect isn't about status," he had said. "It's about seeing value in everyone." She whispered those words to herself. They stuck with her like a lesson carved into her mind. The next morning, Clara arrived at work earlier than usual. The hallways were quiet, sunlight spilling across the floors.
She walked past the cleaning staff and smiled at them. Really smiled. Something she had never done before.
They looked surprised, then smiled back. It felt different, and in that moment she realized how small actions could change everything. Throughout the day, Clara made small but deliberate choices. She thanked the receptionist for handling a tough call. She helped a junior employee fix a report. And when someone spilled coffee in the break room, she grabbed napkins and helped clean it up, without thinking twice. People noticed. Some gave her curious looks, others smiled. But she didn't care about appearances anymore. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was just trying to be better, because now she understood what true leadership meant. In the following weeks, Daniel rarely appeared in the office again. He traveled often for meetings and expansion projects, but his presence lingered in the company culture. People spoke about him differently now, not just as a CEO, but as a man who practiced what he preached. Clara continued to grow. Her department noticed her new attitude, and her manager started trusting her with bigger tasks. When she was promoted to team lead a few months later, she didn't see it as a reward. She saw it as a responsibility. She often thought back to that moment when Daniel had said, "Talent needs humility." It became her silent motto. Whenever she felt her ego rising, she reminded herself of the man in the simple shirt, the one who had quietly shown her what true respect looked like. One afternoon, a company-wide email went out announcing another annual gathering, this time at a larger venue. Clara smiled when she read it. She didn't feel nervous anymore. She felt ready to show that she had learned, and somewhere in her heart, she hoped that when Daniel looked across the crowd again, he would see that the lesson he once gave her in silence had taken root and changed her completely. The next annual gathering arrived faster than anyone expected. A year had passed since the moment that changed everything for Clara. The day she discovered the quiet man she had underestimated was actually the CEO of the entire company. That single experience had shifted her perspective completely. The event was held in a much larger venue this time, decorated with banners, soft lighting, and elegant displays showing the company's achievements. Clara arrived early, just as she used to, but she was different now. The same hands that once held a clipboard nervously now carried it with quiet confidence. She had grown into her new role as a team lead, not because she was the loudest or most ambitious, but because she had learned to listen, to guide others with respect. As she helped direct the setup crew, she noticed how natural it felt to treat everyone kindly, whether it was the caterers, the technicians, or the new interns. It wasn't an act. It was who she had become. The venue buzzed with energy again, just like the year before. People chatted excitedly about meeting the CEO, who had spent most of the past year expanding the company abroad. There were new faces everywhere, young recruits eager to impress. Clara saw glimpses of her old self in them, proud, sharp, a bit too focused on appearances. She smiled softly, knowing how time and humility had changed her. By late morning, the hall filled up. The program began with short speeches and presentations, leading up to the moment everyone was waiting for, Daniel's return. Clara took her seat this time near the middle, surrounded by her team. They whispered about what he might say this year. Then the lights dimmed slightly and the familiar calm voice of the host filled the air. "Please welcome back our founder and CEO, Daniel Reed." The applause was thunderous. When Daniel walked onto the stage, he looked exactly the same, simple, confident, warm. Yet now Clara could see things she hadn't seen before. The weight he carried, the kindness in his tone, and the quiet authority that came from genuine respect rather than power. He smiled as the noise settled. "It's good to be home," he began, his voice steady. "Every time I come back, I'm reminded of what makes this place special. It's not the numbers, not the growth charts, but the people sitting here today." The audience listened closely. Clara felt that same warmth spreading in her chest, the same feeling she had when he had spoken the first time. The day she learned who he really was, Daniel continued, "This past year, I've seen how our teams have grown. I've seen kindness replace competition, and collaboration replace pride. That's the kind of culture that lasts." He paused and smiled thoughtfully. "I remember walking through these halls years ago and how some people looked right through me because they thought I was just another worker. I didn't blame them. I saw it as a reminder of what I wanted this company to become. A place where no one is just anything." A ripple of quiet laughter spread through the audience, mixed with reflection. Clara felt her cheeks warm, but this time not from shame. It was something else, and gratitude. Daniel looked across the room. Respect is not given by title. It's earned by how you treat others every single day. You don't have to be a CEO to lead. Sometimes leadership is simply how you make others feel. The words landed deeply. Clara glanced at her team. They were nodding, smiling, inspired. She felt proud, knowing she had tried to live by those exact words since that day. After the event, the hall turned lively again. People surrounded Daniel, taking photos, asking questions, thanking him. Clara didn't rush this time. She stayed with her team, helping them pack up materials, ensuring things were in order. She didn't need to seek his attention. She knew he noticed everything anyway. Still, as the crowd began to thin, Daniel approached from the side of the stage. "Clara," he said gently, his voice carrying that familiar calm. She turned, surprised but smiling. "Mr. Reed, it's good to see you again." "It's good to see you too," he replied. "You've done well this year." She felt her heart lift a little. "Thank you. I've just been trying to do things the right way." He nodded approvingly. "And that's what makes the difference. Doing things right, even when no one's watching." They stood in a brief, comfortable silence. The noise around them faded a little, replaced by the quiet hum of people packing up. Clara looked at him thoughtfully. "I've never forgotten that day," she said. "You probably don't even remember how embarrassed I was." Daniel smiled faintly. "I remember, but not because of the mistake. I remember because you learned from it. Most people don't change. You did." That simple sentence meant more to her than any award or promotion. She smiled, feeling something settle inside her, like a full circle had been completed. Daniel continued, "You've become the kind of leader this company needs, one who understands that people come first." She nodded, her voice soft. "You taught me that without ever saying it directly." He gave a small chuckle. "Sometimes actions teach better than words." They talked for a few more minutes about her team, new projects, and the direction the company was taking. Then someone called Daniel over, and before leaving, he turned to her one last time. "Keep doing what you're doing, Clara. And remember, no one is ever just a worker." She watched him walk away, the crowd naturally parting as he passed. But this time, she didn't see a powerful CEO. She saw a man who had built something far bigger than a company. He had built a culture of respect. As the venue slowly emptied, Clara stepped outside into the evening air. The sun was setting, painting the sky gold and pink. She took a deep breath, feeling a calm satisfaction she hadn't known years ago. She thought about her journey, from that careless moment when she judged someone by appearances, to now, standing here as someone others looked up to. Her story wasn't just about embarrassment or lessons learned. It was about becoming human in the truest sense, kind, humble, and aware. Back at the office a week later, Clara carried on as usual. Her days were filled with meetings, mentoring younger employees and improving systems. But what she loved most were the small things, checking in on the cleaning staff, offering help to an intern, thanking the night shift. One morning, a new recruit, a young woman fresh out of college, complained in the break room about a maintenance worker who accidentally left cleaning supplies near her desk. Clara overheard it. Instead of correcting her sharply, she smiled gently and said, "He's one of us. We all keep this place running, just in different ways." The young woman looked thoughtful, then nodded slowly. And in that moment, Clara saw a spark of understanding, the same kind that had once changed her. As the weeks rolled on, life moved forward, but the memory of that first day, when she called Daniel just a worker, never faded. It became her silent reminder every time she felt impatience rise or pride sneak in. She often said to herself quietly, "You never know who someone really is, or what they've been through. So treat everyone like they matter, because they do." Years later, when she was promoted again, Clara looked out over her own team during their orientation meeting. Standing on the same stage Daniel once had, she smiled as she spoke to the new employees. "Here, we don't see job titles first," she said. "We see people, because no one is ever just anything." And as the applause filled the room, Clara caught sight of Daniel standing quietly near the back, watching with pride. He didn't need to say a word. His eyes said it all. She smiled back, realizing the journey had come full circle. The lesson he once taught her in silence had now become her own voice, one she used to guide others toward the same truth that changed her life forever.